is a book review. Here is the book, How the Scots Invented the Modern World. It's by Arthur Herman. Here's the cover of the book before I took off. I always take off the added-on covers for the hardcover books. It's a magnificent book. You know, I figured the Scots were, good and interesting, but I was amazed at how good and interesting and smart the Scots are. I think you'd be shocked at all the things that came out of Scotland. It's a little tiny country. It's only about 5 million people. Here's a map of Scotland. And the way I view it is there's northern Scotland, and that's, especially where the Highlanders are. And the Highlanders, they remind me, if you're going to compare this to ancient Greeks, they're like Sparta. They're very sort of poor, very primitive, kind of violent, but have a very strong sense of honor, very tough. They produce the best soldiers out of any country ever in the history of the world. Wait till you see what's come out of that place. You'd be amazed. Okay, then when you get down into southern Scotland, like in Edinburgh, for example, they've had incredible levels of scholarship. Amazing for a country of only 5 million people. I would even say, on a per capita basis, per person basis, more geniuses and highly talented people have come out of Scotland than anywhere else in the world. And I realize that's a strong statement. But wait till you see what's coming in these slides. Okay, first of all, the greatest movie of, like a historical war hero would be Braveheart with Mel Gibson, about William Wallace, trying to save England from the British. It's just a masterpiece. Okay, then here was a book called Born Fighting by James Webb. And he talked especially about the Highlanders and what great fighters they were, and how there's so many famous people, General Patton, Ronald Reagan, and there's a whole bunch of other ones you'll see as we get going here. That's him, James Webb, by the way. That's him when he was in Vietnam. He was wounded several times, won a bunch of medals for honor, bravery. He then became Secretary of the Navy to Ronald Reagan. You can see he's got a Scottish tie on there, as I do today too. I got my Scottish tie here. Okay, the guy who, we'll come to him later, but the guy who really made Scotland ties popular and the kilts popular was Scott, Walter Scott, with his novels like Waverley and Ivanhoe, for example. Okay, but we'll come to that a little later. Okay. But one thing remarkable about them is they have produced better soldiers than any place ever in the history of the world. Here is The Patriot with Mel Gibson, another magnificent movie. That's about the founding of the United States. The best Civil War movie was Gone with the Wind. It's an all-time masterpiece. The movie is spectacular, 10 out of 10 stars. The book is spectacular, 10 out of 10 stars. It was 51 audio CDs. And what I loved about it especially was Scarlett was like my ex-wife. A very controlling, smart, manipulative woman. I wish I had seen this movie before I got married. One of the lines I'll never forget, she said, she goes, "Men are so stupid. All you have to do is compliment them, and they believe anything you say, and then you can get them to do anything." And I'm like, God, that sounds like my wife. Oh, my God. All right, so anyways, back in the day, we had real movies coming out of Hollywood. Masterpiece. This is creative art at a apex. All right, now, like I was saying about the best soldiers ever in the history of the world. So who was the best soldier ever in World War I? Sergeant York, Scots-Irish guy. Congressional Medal of Honor, did all kinds of amazing things. Here's another picture of Sergeant Alvin York, Medal of Honor, superhero. Here's a painting they made of him. All right, now look at this badass guy right here. This is George Patton. Okay, here he is standing next to a World War I tank. And he was kind of an aristocrat. He knew he was a military genius, and he's like, everybody better damn well accept it. And he's a little pissed off because he kind of didn't get treated as well as he deserved. Eisenhower gave favoritism to Montgomery, and Montgomery is kind of a weasel, and Bradley's kind of a weasel, compared to Patton. Patton was a genius. Patton's the one who got things done. Yeah, he was a little bit over the top, a pain in the ass, but he was superlative. Okay, here's Patton, talking to one of the soldiers there in Europe and Italy. Okay, here's from the movie Patton, and it's a great movie. I used to watch all that stuff when I was a kid. You know, the sinking of the Bismarck. Back when I was a kid, World War II wasn't that long ago. So I used to watch all the World War II movies. All right, now here is the big famous scene at the beginning of Patton. George C. Scott is the actor. And by the way, he's a Scottish actor too. He comes out and he gives this big speech in front of an American flag. And it was a rather extraordinary speech. And this goes with America, how America used to be. The attitude of America used to be, we are the best. Either be our friend or get out of our way. And that was a good way to be. America was this proud, great country. Whatever we do, we're going to make it the best. We're a melting pot. We all, work together. That's how it was. And it was magnificent. I think the best decade ever was the 1980s. I can remember just laughing and laughing at all the movies, all the great music, all the hair bands. It was great. Okay, here's a statue of General George Patton over at West Point. Okay, and I think we're going to stop right there for the part one. I got tons more good stuff. We'll get to that in just a little bit in part two.